Hello, sports moms. Welcome to Always a Sports Mom, Episode 1. This is the podcast for moms of boys who never stop being sports moms, no matter what season you're in. Whether your son is just picking up a ball for the first time, heading into high school sports, or long past his final game, this is where real conversations lead to takeaways you can actually put into play with your son at any age. I'm Trish, and I'll never stop being a sports mom. And I say that because once you become a sports mom, it stays with you. It doesn't end when the seasons end. It doesn't end when the uniforms get packed away, temporarily or for good. And it doesn't end when your role starts to look a little different. Because connection doesn't disappear. It evolves. And even when our boys stop playing, many of them never stop loving sports. Sometimes the games become one of the easiest ways to keep conversations going, to stay interested in what interests them, and to continue sharing something meaningful together. So what is this podcast really? Always a Sports Mom is about what lasts longer than the final whistle. It's not necessarily about stats or standings. It's about staying connected to what matters to your son and to you, so you can listen better, ask better questions, and stay part of his world. Here on this podcast, we'll talk about what's happening on their field, but also across the sports world itself, always with an eye toward what it means for our boys and young men and how it helps us stay connected. Because even when they're no longer on the field themselves, sports often remain part of who they are. And understanding that world helps us stay part of theirs. Because sometimes connection starts with something as simple as knowing what he's talking about. I always encourage moms to make the game personal. Adopt the teams he loves. Learn a little bit about the players, the coaches, the storylines. You don't have to become an expert. You just have to stay interested in what matters to him. You'd honestly be surprised how positively a son reacts when his mom can genuinely talk with him about something he cares deeply about. For example, my son followed the Arizona Diamondbacks since he was a little guy. And we never even lived in Arizona, not even close. If I remember correctly, it started because the brother of a player he liked on another team, and I think that was the Atlanta Braves, didn't live close to there either, ended up playing for the Diamondbacks. And somehow that became his team. He adopted that team. And over the years, I started following them too. Not necessarily because I would have picked that team on my own, but because it mattered to him. We even made trips to Arizona over the years to watch games at the Diamondback Stadium. And when they've played in our local area, we've been to those games as well. And honestly, those are some of the moments I remember most. Not necessarily the scores or even who won, but the time together. The conversations, the traditions that somehow grew out of simply caring about something he loved. And if there's one thing I've learned about sports fans, it's how they started loving a team. It doesn't always make logical sense. Sometimes it starts because of one player or a certain coach, a special season, a childhood memory, maybe even a family tradition. For example, like my dad went to Duke, so I follow Duke. Or my uncle goes to Michigan State, so I follow them. Or it could be just one moment that sticks with you. Before you know it, you're emotionally invested for life. And honestly, I think relationships with our boys can be like that too. Connection often grows through the little things we choose to care about together. This isn't a podcast about wins and losses. It's about what sports open the door to. Confidence, disappointment, resilience, identity, and how we show up for our boys through it all. Some episodes will be reflective and personal, like this one, And in future episodes, I'll also sit down with other sports moms, including moms whose sons went on to play at the collegiate level and even professionally. They'll share their perspective they didn't always have in the moment, but wish they had. Because being informed helps us stay connected, and connection is what lasts long after the season ends. And I promise you right now, this will not be a 2 to 3 hour podcast. I know you don't have time for that. I want you to take me with you on the go, on the way to practice, or sit down with me over a cup of coffee when you have a free moment or two. I know that can be impossible some days. So how did all of this even start? To really understand why this podcast exists, I want to take you back to the very beginning for me. Not to high school with packed stadiums, not to travel ball, not to long tournament weekends, but to my son's first sports experience. It was called Mighty Ball, which was basically pre-T-ball. My son was 4 years old, and if you've ever watched a game like this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. One kid would hit the ball, and every single player on the field would leave their position and run straight forward. We're talking the outfielders, we're talking the infielders. Sometimes even kids from the dugout wanted in on the action. It was adorable. It was chaotic, and it was completely perfect. There were no positions, no strategy, no standings, just little kids chasing a ball, parents cheering like it was the World Series, and moms holding snacks, water bottles, and ice bags for boo-boos. That's really where it started for me. Not with wins and losses, but with folding chairs, juice boxes, and of course, plenty of sunscreen. And learning how to be a sports mom, one game at a time. As my son got older, of course, the games changed and the stakes changed. And of course, the schedules got longer. The weekdays and weekends got fuller. And somewhere along the way, sports became one of the main ways we stayed connected. We'd talk about games, we'd talk about other players, we'd rehash plays and laugh about practice. We'd process wins and losses together. That connection is what I've always held on to. Years later, I even created a handy scorekeeping book called Mom's Scorebee, which then evolved into a passion project website focused on helping moms and sons stay connected through sports. But it was really never about the score. It was always about the connection. And for so many years, that connection through sports was simply part of our everyday life. It was normal, it was constant, it was something I assumed would always be there. Until one day, it felt different. There was no practice to rush to, no jerseys to wash, and no cheering from the sidelines. And that's when I discovered something no one really talks about with sports moms. There comes a moment in this experience that many of us don't expect. For me, I really didn't have language for it at first. I just knew the rhythm had changed after he stopped formally playing. So as a way to get my feelings out, I started writing them down. And in that writing, I came up with a phrase that helped me make sense of that season. I called it having empty net syndrome. I'd like to read it to you, what I wrote. Do you have empty net syndrome? Subtitle, it's natural to feel blue when your son no longer plays sports. If you're a hockey fan, you know what the term empty net means. But if you're a sports mom no longer watching your son play, you know what an empty net feels like. In hockey, it means that there's no goaltender in the net in order to gain advantage on the other team. For a sports mom who has watched her son play through childhood and the teenage years, when he retires, that empty net, that empty mound, empty court, or empty field can leave an emptiness in her own heart. The only way I know how to describe it is called empty net syndrome, my sports mom take on empty nest syndrome. Because watching my son play sports for so many years was such a huge part of my life. It was unsettling when all of a sudden I no longer had to launder grass stains, grass-stained uniforms, create snack schedules, arrange team meals, boil mouth guards at the last minute, or search the house for missing baseball belts. And strangely enough, I actually felt sadness over the loss of those chores. Call me crazy, but what I wouldn't give to smell those days-old football pants left in the car over the weekend on a sunny afternoon. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit much, but you know what I mean, sports moms. When I drive by our Little League field and AYSO soccer fields, my mind is immediately whisked away to a time when the greatest part of the game for the kids was, wait for it, the snacks. As my son got older and tournament play took over, oh, what a joy it was to watch his team win. Except, of course, when winning meant staying at the park later and later and later. Every sports mom has done it. You have your outside voice. Yes, go boys, you've got this. High five, high five. Yeah, they're going to do it. They're actually going to do it. And your inside voice, no, please, not another home run. We're actually going to win this thing. And we still have homework, projects, and laundry to do this weekend. Honestly, those are the moments that stay with us, aren't they? So how do we move through ENS? Here are the 3 things I've learned along the way. Number 1, it's okay to miss that season. We watched our sons play for years and years, and of course it feels different knowing we may not see them in another game again, and that's okay. That was a special season in our lives, and we cherish those memories forever. Sports gave us such a public, beautiful way to love our kids loudly. For our sons, they're often ready to move on to college, work, the military, or whatever comes next. And that's exactly what sports helped prepare them for. Teamwork, leadership, courage, discipline, and so much more. Number 2, it's okay to feel nostalgic. We were nostalgic at kindergarten graduation, junior high graduation, and of course, especially high school graduation. We're allowed to feel nostalgic about this too. But that nostalgia should never get in the way of staying connected to our sons through the sports they love. Most young men who played sports love to watch sports too. And here's the gift. Watching sports with your son can become almost as meaningful as watching him play. The players may change, the connection doesn't. And guess what? No dirty socks involved. Unless, well, some things never change. Number 3, it's okay to look to the future. Sports Gigi, Sports Mimi, Sports Grandma, anyone? I'm lucky enough to be a Sports Gigi now, watching my grandson already a few years into his own sports journey. I'm even luckier that I get to be so involved in his sports life because he and his mom actually live with us, which means I'm right back at the practices and games, cheering loudly and loving every minute of it. So maybe we really do get a second, third, or even fourth chance to live this beautiful sports mom life again, just in a different way. Those 14 plus years of my life as a sports mom were precious beyond measure. Not without headaches, heartaches, injuries, and even injustice. But I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. To all the sports moms with sons still in the game, soak it in. It goes by in the swing of a bat. And to all the sports moms navigating ENS, hold on to the memories, enjoy the man your son is becoming, and be grateful for every season that got you here. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, before I let you go for this episode, I want to share one more thing with you that I wrote at the start of my son's freshman year of high school. And it still makes me smile because it captures exactly how so many of us feel. It's called The Prayer of an Athlete's Mom. This is the prayer that you'll hear every game. My requests each time are always the same. Protect his body and protect his mind. Keep him injury-free and rarely sidelined. And if he should put his sport above you, remind him how it is he can do what he do. 'Cause without your love and blessings on him, well, let's just say it might be harder to win. In the episodes ahead, we'll explore what it really means to understand our boys and young men in every season, how they think, how they process, what they need from us, and how sports can continue to give us meaningful ways to stay connected throughout every stage of life, sometimes together with other sports moms and sometimes with trusted experts who can help guide us along the way. Because you never stop being a sports mom. Until then, enjoy the game.